these, recall that you have to do the opposite. So we'll work backwards. So if I plugged in any number here on the left-hand side, like 6, the first thing you do would be 6 plus 7. So that means you want to do the opposite. Subtract 7 on both sides. Basically, you know, what plus 7 equals 10. You might have been able to figure that out. 0. 10 minus 7 is. And for all these, if you don't have the work, please write in the work exactly as you see it. All the way, everything. So even like drawing this line, some of you don't write that down. That's not like an option, or you know, your style doesn't have that or something. This is algebra. This is how to show the work. So you gotta have this down. A few other things about the Jewish tree. 2 negatives. That is the same as addition. So your first step should not be adding or subtracting anything to both sides. If you added 2 or anything, erase that. You need to simplify the 2 signs first. Same thing over here. Adding a negative is the same as just subtraction. Anytime you have double signs, the first thing you do is the double signs. It's not solving. Not adding, subtracting on both sides. Then we can go to, okay, opposite of positive 2. Just like that. Opposite of negative 6, positive 6. So if yours does not look like this, you need to erase it and make it. This is the type of work you need to have. Drop the variable straight down. Notice how I'm just going straight down. Equal signs. Straight down. The constant, or the number. -9 minus 2 is, what is that equal? 8 plus 6, what is that equal? What was number 2? So going down, we get to 4. Keep in mind that with algebra it's nice. It doesn't care what type of number it is. It's going to be the same step. So if you come across something like this with a fraction, don't write this part. But let's say if I just got rid of the denominator and I did this. Okay? What would be the first step? Add 3 to both sides. So it's the same thing here. It doesn't care that this is a 3/5. You just add 3/5 to both sides. You don't change anything. You don't develop the fraction. So now, how do I use algebra? It's the idea that there's a number next to a variable. It's being subtracted. Do the opposite. If there's a number next to a variable that's being subtracted, you would add 3. So just add the exact opposite. Again, we don't want to say, oh, this is harder because it's a fraction. That has to do with what's harder about it, other than you have to write over 5. -2 plus 3 is 1. See, on this easier problem, you have to do the same exact math. If you add 3 to both sides, you still have to do -2 plus 3. It's still -2 plus 3. It's just over 5 now. There's nothing harder or more difficult about this. I got it here, some of you just tell yourself it's more difficult. That gives you a reason to stop and give up. Please don't do that. Again, your work. sign variables on the other side. Divide both sides by the negative. It's the same thing. Because negative 8 divided by negative 8. Negative 72 divided by negative 8. Positive. Half of what is 12? So you take half of $6, you get $12? Half of $6 is $12?
No, half of $6, 4.
Yeah, half of what amount of money is $12?
Oh, 24.
24. So why did everybody just say 6?
Oh, I say yes.
Half.
You said half of 12.
Then half is 11.
No, I said half of what number is 12, and a lot of people just said 6.
Well, we know the sign.
So half of what number is 12, not half of. Half of 12. Right. So we know the answer is 24. Half of 24 is 12. So that gives us a hint that we need to use reciprocal. Again, your work should look just like this. Look just like this. If it doesn't, make sure you change it right now. Let's see if we can look at it. So 8 is very similar to number 6. Multiple. It was 1 over 2n, half of n, and I multiply both sides by the reciprocal, so number 8 is the same.
Hey.
So multiply both sides by
4/3.
by what?
4/3.
4 over 3.
Oh,
Remember, what does the fraction actually mean?
yeah.
Divide. What does
Oh.
what does a fraction actually mean? Okay, this means to multiply by the top and divide by the bottom. When you do fractions, like if I did 3/4 times 8, how do you simplify this? You do 3 times 8, multiply by whatever number's on top, and then you divide by whatever number's on the bottom. 3 times 8 is 24. 24 divided by 4 is 6. So a fraction means to multiply on top, divide on the bottom. So we're just doing the opposite. Instead of multiplying by 3, we're dividing by 3 to undo it, to cancel it out. Instead of dividing by 4, we're going to multiply by 4. That's how you get the reciprocal on both sides. Notice how with the negative 12, that's considered to be on the top. So when I write the fraction next to it, I put the 4 directly next to it. The 3 is kind of down below both numbers. Cancel out, meaning they equal 1. So we have 1y, y equals. So negative 12 times 4. Negative 48. Negative 48 divided by 3. Or you can do the division first. So 12 divided by 3 is negative 4. Negative 4 times 4 is negative 16. So on this one, you see it's a little bit easier. It's the same thing. You get the same answer. Now, we looked at a few of these before. We looked at a few of these before. And we said, if we plugged in a number here, let's say I wanted to just forget the left-hand side, I just want to do the right-hand side. If I plugged in a 1 for n, what would be the first thing I'd do to the 1 to simplify the right-hand side? You'd do 1 times 2. So first I'd multiply by 2, and then I'd have to add 5 to it. So when you're solving, you're doing the reverse and the opposite. So that means when I solve it, I need to subtract 5 and then divide by 2. Same thing over here. Let's say I plugged in 7 for m. If I wanted to simplify the left-hand side, the first thing I'd do would be to do 7 divided by negative 7. My first step would be to, okay, divide by negative 7 and then subtract 2. So as we solve it, reverse it. The first thing you want to do is add 2 to both sides and then multiply by negative 7. You notice when I'm doing adding and subtracting, the signs change. When I'm doing multiplying and dividing, the sign is the same. So I divide by negative 7, multiply by negative 7. Subtract 2, add 2. And again, I start here. I start at the bottom. I do negative, add 2 to both sides, then multiply both sides by negative 7. This is something you have to do either mentally or write it out like I am. You cannot start solve an equation without actually having a plan. Okay. So for instance, if I plugged in any number, I'm just picking a random number. It doesn't matter what number I plug in. The first thing I'd do, right, and I'm going to show you right here, if I had to simplify this, the first, and this is the number I'm starting with, the first thing I have to do would be 3 times 2. I'd multiply it by 2, get an answer, then I would divide by 3, get an answer, and then I would subtract 4. That's just order of operations. If I'm starting here, I have to multiply by 2, get that answer, divide by 3, get that whole answer, and then subtract 4. So reverse it. Add 4 to both sides, multiply by 3, and then divide by 2. That tells you exactly what to do in the correct order. Add 4 to both sides. 2k over 3, 0 equals positive 3. Then multiply by 3. Okay, multiply by 3. And here's the thing: if you have several multiply and divide, you can do them at the same time. I also want to divide by 2. Multiply by 3, divide by 2. Okay, multiplying by 3, divide by 2. Divide by 2. You see how it's the reciprocal? Turns into the reciprocal. So eventually, you're not going to be thinking, okay, I need to multiply by 3, divide by 2. You're just going to say, oh, use a reciprocal. So it cancels both of them out. That's the whole point. It cancels stuff out. 3 times 3?
9.
And then only 2 is on the bottom. Now I know some of you didn't have teachers that had fraction answers before. So every time you got a fraction answer before, you'd say, oh, it's wrong, it's a fraction. That's okay. Sometimes there are fractions, and that's fine. Slowly but surely we're getting there. Alright. So we have multiple variables, so we have to do some simplifying. On the front hand side, it was already simplified. Okay? And we can just go in and start adding, subtracting on both sides. But here, it is not. So if you have variables on the same side, notice how I'm not adding 3v to both sides. I'm not subtracting 6. They're already on the same side. These are on the same side. Just do 6 minus 3. Okay. Now I'm just going to go through and simplify a few of these first. If we know how to do everything on the front, and we know how to turn it into an equation that looks like something from the front, and it's not like we're doing a whole bunch of new or harder, more difficult problems. It's more the same. So a good trick in math is when you don't know how to do something, try to turn it into something you do know how to do. We worked on these.
So you solved them?
Let's go ahead and solve them. Okay. So here, you see how we have this. The terms are 7x, positive 2, negative 3x. Very important to see that this is minus 3. It's not 3x and 7x, which makes 10x. It's 7 minus 3. Notice how all of these basically look like the same thing now, right? All starting at different places, but after 1 or 2 steps, they all look identical. People that are good at math have caught on to this pattern. It doesn't feel like they're doing like, well, how many problems are on this total? They're not doing 27 different problems that are all have their own unique steps and their own way of being solved. They realize that, well, after 1 or 2 steps, they're basically all the same thing. Like number 9 by itself is the exact same thing after 1 step as all of these. And how you solve it is the exact same steps. You don't have to know how to do 20-something different problems. You're really doing the same problem over and over, just it looks a little different at the beginning. Variables on both sides. So it's going to be like a little different. Up here, they're on the same side, you just combine them. 6 minus 3 is 3. We're on different sides. That's where we start adding, subtracting to both sides. Cancel out the variable on the right. Whatever it is on the right-hand side. On 17, it's 3y. Again, this is exactly what your work should look like. If you don't have this, that's part of algebra. If you're saying, if you're still doing the, I'm in junior high, I got answer, so I'm done, there is no multiple choice. There is no, I just got an answer, so I don't need to show algebra. That does not exist anymore. And again, your high school graduation is at stake. It's not something you think about if you feel like doing. You do it because that's what you're being told to do, and that's what's at stake. There's some things that you do not have control over. Whether or not to show your algebraic steps is one of them. So notice how I'm canceling the number on the left. Whatever the number is on the left, that's what I'm taking the opposite of. So a variable on the right, and a number on the left. So this is slightly different. The only thing what you need to be thinking about in algebra is this equation like this one, or is it like this one? So solving this right here, that's kind of like what we did on the front. Now 16 and 18, these are a little different because there's variables on both sides. That's the kind of thing you should be thinking about. Is this like the last one, or is it like this other one? Get down to 19. And you have to switch back and forth. These are both on the same side, like the first one on this side, number 13, like the one above, right? So you're not going to do what we did here. All you have to do is 8g minus 2g. You get 6g minus 5. Everything else I can bring down. Now you can see how that looks like all those others. It looks like 14, 15, 18. After that initial step, this looks just like all the others. It looks like 20 right next to it. This looks like what we did on the front. The last one on the front. So as you get stuck or as you say, I don't know, Well, look, number 8, 3/4 y equals negative 12. So down here, that's basically the exact same thing. The x is up here instead of on the side, but that doesn't change it. And the rest is arithmetic review. So for some of you, you're right there already. You either have this all done and this is just a little boring for you, apologize for that. Or others that you have a good start on everything, you need to clean up your algebra. If I'm grading this, I need to see minus 4x on both sides, plus 9 on both sides, and then I need to see the work. Okay, we have x equals 14. So there are 4 steps here, or 3 steps. Okay, the subtracting 4x, the adding the 9, and then the number. That's 3 points. If you're missing any of it, if you have the right answer, but you're missing all of this, that's 1 out of 3. That's 33%, that's not passing. So recall that you are in algebra class, so you need to show all the algebra. On this one, we have 5y equals 10. And then there's one more step, divide by 5 on both sides. So we have y equals 2. So this has 2 points here. You have to show the minus 3y on both sides, the minus 2 on both sides. You have to show the dividing by 5, and you have to get the right number. And it's 4 points. So if you just have the right number, that's 1 out of 4, not passing. So all this is not optional, not if you feel like it. You have to have all of it. The most common mistake I would see is people leaving this off. If you're almost there, there's some people that will say, oh, 5 times what equals 10? Oh, that's 2. Y equals 2. And they don't show this. So that's 3 out of 4 because they're not showing me how you got it. Even though it's obvious to you and it's obvious to me, that's not an excuse to leave it off. Like, well, I only need to write things down as far as I need to get the right answer. Again, you're doing that because you think this is all or nothing. You're thinking in your head because you've been conditioned by maybe another teacher at not a high school that this is all that matters, or that you're taking a multiple choice test, right? And all you have to do is this, and you get 100% for the question if you get the right answer. That does not exist anymore. And it won't exist for any high school class at this school. It won't exist for any college math class you ever take. That is gone. You have to let go of the answer is everything and that's all that matters. It's how you get to it, if that's what's algebra. And without the steps and how you got there, okay, it does not matter. Okay? I hope that's very clear. So you're learning not just about how to get the number, but all of it. Alright, so you need to finish everything up. Have it out right now. I will stamp if it's finished.